Welcome back to Just a Digital. We talk about the evolution of gaming, media, and take a look at some of the classics that shape today's modern titles. As always, I'm your host, Brett Clark, and joined with me is the lovely Mr. Matt Keaton.
Howdy,
Matt,
y'all.
how you doing?
Doing great today, man.
Doing great.
Got some good
Yeah.
sleep. Feeling great today.
There you go. Same here. We just finished breakfast over on my side. So,
Yeah, same.
what about you?
Yeah.
What'd you eat?
Actually, I had a nice breakfast sandwich and
Okay.
nice, croissant
A croissant?
and some coffee.
Yeah, I had a egg McMuffin. No, not an egg McMuffin. You know, McDonald's is synonymous with like McMuffins in the mix.
Yeah.
But I just had a muffin and an egg on top of it.
Nice.
So I'm glad to hear that your breakfast went well.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, speaking of going well, this week's topic is actually about cooperative games. You and I were playing Uncharted Waters this week, not cooperatively, and your gameplay went well.
Mhm.
So it went super swell. Like, died within 10 minutes, sort of swell. But as far as like couch co-op games go, like, what was the last couch co-op game that you played?
Last couch co-op game I played recently, it was Everybody's Golf
Everybody's Golf, okay.
on PlayStation 4. So,
For the people at home, do you kind of want to explain the difference between like a traditional co-op game and like a couch co-op game is?
yeah, so traditional co-op game would be something where you play a game cooperatively with your friends. Obviously, multiple controllers, you can pitch in. It's not really something where you sit on a couch with a buddy. It's more something where you play like long distance. Cooperatively, it can be someone online. Usually, the online service is how it's used. And you're able to kind of join together with friends and do something story wise together, or have fun and create your own stories.
Hmm.
Couch cooperative, and it basically is short for couch co-op. What that is basically sitting on the couch with your friends, being able to sit in the same room with your friend, pick up a controller, either pass the controller play, which is you take turns playing and then you pass the controller, or you all play together with physical controllers and you're all there in the same room.
Yeah. I think the traditional name for couch co-op was like multiplayer, like back on
Yeah.
like N64s and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or split screen on like newer generation consoles. And the difference is that with online getting so available and like better than it used to be, I think online co-op and online multiplayer is so common
Mhm.
that you're starting to see not many games have multi split screen support or multiplayer locally support. So when couch co-op is brought up, most people are like, "Well, who uses couch co-op? I'm playing with my friends online."
Mhm.
There's something about couch co-op that I think is beneficial to the gaming experience,
Mhm.
because if there's a game like, let's take Fortnite. Fortnite didn't offer split screen until very recently. I think it was 2019, and the game had already been out for a while, like a year or so. And the biggest complaint was that everyone had to have their own console, had to have their own TV in order to play it.
Mhm.
Whereas if you had split screen, me and my dad tried this a couple months ago. It just cuts the screen in half, and you each can be on a team together.
Yeah.
And having that ability limits the need for additional control, like additional consoles, additional TVs. And there's also something about playing right next to the person. It's more interactive, it's more social, I think, that way. I'm not saying that online's not social. It's just there's something to be said when they remove that option altogether,
Mhm.
So I agree with you. I think that there is a difference between traditional cooperative, like when you think of it, and then couch co-op. It's a much different feeling, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I used to, when I was a child, have buddies over. We'd play. I mean, I was the neighborhood kid who had all the consoles and all the games, and I attracted everybody from all over the neighborhood to my house. So I was the great social experiment as a kid, and I had a lot of titles. We had a lot of fun. I mean, we would play Madden. We would
Mhm.
play like Mortal Kombat and just
Yeah.
on and on and on. MLB, or back then it was called like Triple Play. We played sports titles like NASCAR. We just went all in.
Mhm.
We had a lot of fun, and for me, that multiplayer wasn't around and like an available option for me at the time. Obviously, it was out there and it was available in limited doses, but like I just never experienced it. And,
Mhm.
we didn't have high speed internet that was capable of things like it is today.
Mhm.
So back then it was just playing with your friends and experiencing that. And in hindsight, you kind of get annoyed by your friends sometimes if your friend's really good or your friends really suck,
Yep.
depending. And then now it's just kind of like I kind of miss the old days.
Mhm.
I miss hopping on the couch with somebody, picking up a controller, maybe cleaning off the pizza grease or whatever,
Oh yeah.
and just sitting down and playing together, and then that social commentary, and maybe you drop an elbow drop on your buddy because he's racing and beating you at the end of at the end of the lap, or something.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of coming together camaraderie is not present today online,
Yep.
because online gaming today is you don't see your friend unless you're on a PC using Discord, and you just hear their voice, and a
Yep.
lot of people snack on the mic, and it's kind of like, whoa, it's kind of
Or they're the heavy breathers, the mouth breathers on the
yeah.
mic.
I'll admit sometimes I can be a mouth breather.
I'm a nose whistler. I'll be honest. Sometimes my nose whistles.
Yeah,
I can't
me.
help it.
No, you can't
Yeah.
really help it. I mean, it's just how you grow up, and it's your habits. For me, I'm
Yeah.
always nasally, and I'm always
Yeah.
congested with allergies, so I do apologize for that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun just being able to play with someone. And for me, what the value is to me is my wife and I can play games together on the couch and
Yep.
occupy time. And I mean, we made a date night the other night playing Borderlands and Metal Gear Solid and things like that.
Mhm.
Obviously, with my wife kind of not really enjoying the experience too much because she's not in a first person shooter, so we kind of switched over to a lighthearted golf game. And if
Mhm.
you don't know what everybody's golf is, so it's made by a Japanese company called Clap Hands, and it's basically the pinnacle of the Hot Shots golf franchise. They kind of
Oh yeah.
branched off in a new direction and made this very cooperative game. And we don't play against each other, and we don't play online. We play past the controller. So
Okay. Hot
we
seat.
yeah, hot seat. We pass the controller. So what we'll do is we'll go tee up to the first hole, and then what somebody starts, and you just
Mhm.
finish your shots, and then when it goes to the next hole, you pass the controller. So we play on one character, and we do go online against like random other social groups, and then we just kind of pass the controller each hole. So it makes it kind of like a challenge when you're trying to play your best. And my wife is really good at the game. She carries me. So it's
Okay.
like, I don't mind passing the controller. She's fully capable, and it just makes a lot of fun. It's a
Yeah.
lot of fun to see someone's different style of how they would approach a hole shot,
Mhm.
a tee shot, versus like me, where I'm trying to be more strategic, and maybe someone's just like, screw it, let's do it. So it's a lot of fun playing with someone
Mhm.
past the controller form of couch cooperative.
Yeah.
It,
I mean, I think you guys would get a kick out of, especially the way you described it. Like, golfing with friends is a very similar
mm,
thing,
mhm.
and golfing with friends, it's like you can have like a cupcake ball or whatever, and there's like all these different modes you can do.
Yeah.
And it's one of the games that I really enjoy. I don't get to play it too often with my friends because like none of us are that great at it. And that's
Mhm.
kind of the thing about it is that like it's a goofy game that you play, very low stakes, like
Mhm.
fun, you know? And I think that that is something where in a hot seat mode, like that can make a lot of sense, you know, like that makes a lot of sense that you should be able to pass over a controller and do stuff like that. So I think if you guys ever want to branch off from that golf with friends, check it out. It's really cheap actually. It's on Steam, I think. Um, but one of the games that I played hot seat was Man and Medan,
Oh, okay.
and you played Until Dawn, correct?
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know what Until Dawn is, Until Dawn's like an interactive horror story,
Mhm.
and you like control multiple characters and you do quick time events in order to make sure like if someone has a choice from A and B, and like A is safe, B is really fast, but you can get to some place to make another decision sooner. You have to do like faster quick time events in order to get there. So it's like a choose your own adventure story in a horror setting.
Mhm.
Man of Medan is the same developers, Supermassive Games, and it is just a different story. It's just a different take on the mechanics. Uh, and it's really good. Another one just released called Little Hope that I'm actually picking up today after the
Oh,
podcast.
nice.
It launched, I think, yesterday or Yeah, I think it launched yesterday on the 30th. But anyways, with that being said, when you play that game, it gives you a hot seat option where you can assign like up to 5 players a different character. So you have a friend who plays like character 1, character 2, and the first day I played it, I was like, this is cool. So I invited my buddy Tay and my buddy Snell over, and we're playing this, and we have 3 guys, obviously. So we give Snell 2 characters, and then we give Tay 2 characters, and we give me 2 characters. Well, Snell's character is the first character in the game, and they kill him off right away. It's like the guy who dies at the start of like a mystery episode, like a mystery series, who you got to find the dead body. And he goes, "What? That's stupid." Like, like I'm like, well, you got 1 guy left at least. But so the whole time it's just fun because there's this one female called like Flisk or whatever her name is. I don't remember what it was. But there's a character that's trying to get with her, and Snell's trying to like set himself up, and like set up the romance. And Tay's playing as that girl, and he just shuts it down like halfway through his like attempt. And just after that, there's like no way for him to get saved now, and it's it was so bad. But it's fun because like you can't make the decisions for somebody else, but you're watching the game play out. So like if I do, let's say I do something in a room, like I unlock a door. Later in the game, Snell might be running down the corridor, and he has the option to try to open this door. And since I unlocked it previously, he can do it. Like he can unlock the door and get in and save himself. Well, if I didn't unlock that door, he wouldn't know that that door's locked, and he would try to unlock it and he'd die. Like, so there's things like that were really cool in the game, where having your buddies there, like, and you guys are like strategically trying to think out like, oh, where am I? Where are my friends? Like, does this help you out? Does this help me out? And having them right next to you, sometimes someone's like, there's like a scene where like you've got a knife and there's a monster chasing you, and I'm about to stab it, and he goes, "No, wait, that's me." And then I'm like, "What?" And I don't stab, and then it shows like revealing that like your person was like hallucinating this monster, and I'm like, "How'd you know?" He's like, "You stepped through this like gas thing that like I read earlier like makes you hallucinate." I'm like, "Oh well, I would have killed him otherwise," And so that's kind of cool, Yeah. Like having that experience is just, it's one of those things where when they're there and you're all like snacking on the Doritos, like it's a different experience than if you were just talking on the headset, because with the headset there's a slight delay, so I might have killed them regardless. But there's also something about someone physically standing up and standing in front of the TV and waving his arms, going, "No, don't kill him! Don't kill him!" there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Super Smash and fighting games. Like you've got that one guy who's really good, and you're knocked out, so you're watching him fight someone else. So you stand up to go get ice cream, knowing that if you stand in front of him, he can't see to help your other buddy out. So you just slowly walk past. So I get you. I love couch co-op. I love split screen multiplayer games because having a lot of buddies who are local, like it's nice to bring everyone together. It's just it's a way better experience in my opinion, because you're not always necessarily there for the game. You're there sometimes to just socialize. Some people don't necessarily want to play the game. Some people prefer to watch. I mean, have you ever had that where you have someone who doesn't play but watches?
Yeah, that's pretty much night and day what my wife does. We'll watch each other play. Like we'll play like Animal Crossing on 2 different Switches in the same room. Like one of us will be docked on the television, the other person's handheld. And we kind of glance over at each other's game and see what's going on. Usually my single player titles that are big AAA titles or big expansive stories, she'll just kind of watch, and she'll sit there and just, it's my wife loves like the humor in all of the games. So if there's this like a serious game and then there's like a ragdoll effect, or somebody's bent over, twisted, she gets a kick out of it. So it's a lot of fun. I'm blessed. My wife loves to watch me play games. She considers herself a noob when it comes to like action games and games that look kind of complicated, and I try to explain forever in a day it's not, and she just
Hmm.
I just would rather watch, and that's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I get that every day, so I can't complain. Back in the day with friends, we had a few friends who really never participated. We were just kind of there for the experience,
Yeah.
and I had a story of like a massive couch cooperative experience. When my band in high school, Milwaukee High School of the Arts, we took a trip to Canada for like a World Fair tour,
Okay.
and I took my PlayStation with, and
There
I
you go.
think I had like WWF SmackDown, and I had a Gran Turismo game, and I had like one of the early fighting games. I think Tekken for the PlayStation,
Oh,
and
there you go.
I was the popular kid. Like my hotel room had like the whole 50-person group crammed into the hotel room, and we're all sitting on. I'm sitting on the floor, Indian style, and I got a couple of buddies who were playing, and then everyone's like, "Oh, I want to play," and I brought two controllers. Thankfully, everybody was nice and respectful, and we didn't break my stuff, so that was nice.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about like a crowd of people or a group of people with you, and they're kind of
Yeah.
like cheering you on, and there's a lot of people spectating. You know,
Hmm.
I think we did it big. Like we ordered pizzas, we had food, we had games, and then that's probably my fault why we missed the bus the next day because we were
Oh,
all passed out in my hotel room,
there you go.
late night binging on video games.
Yeah.
So,
There's always got to be that one guy, I think, and like especially like a group like that where that they
hmm
bring a console. When I was in middle school, I brought my GameCube to a hockey tournament. I don't know where it was. All I know is this the most rinky-dink hotel you could ever think of. And I was by myself because I had to go up with my coach and his son because my parents were with my sister at her state tournament, whatever.
hmm
But you could pick the locks at this hotel with the do not disturb signs. That's how like rinky-dink it was.
wow.
But anyways, so with a population of like 30 people max at this facility, like every hotel room was like the kids and like you just pick a lock and get in there. Um, so my room was just always open with the coach and his son because we had the GameCube on. We were playing NHL 06.
Mm.
And it was funny because I had made my team like in the creative player mode,
hmm
but I didn't know how to spell people's names, you know, because you just know, JJ is JJ and his last name's like Hoffman, but you think it's Hossman, so you just spell it wrong, or like Kate, you just know Katie is Katie and their last name's like German something, you
hmm
never be able to pronounce it. So I have everybody in the game, and at one point, Sarah's like, oh my gosh, JJ, get in here! Look how you spelled your name. I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to know how to spell your name? And he's like, dude, it's on the back of my jersey. I'm like, I never look at the back of your jerseys, guys. Like, and so everyone just got a kick. Everyone would come in and just see their creative character and just see like how poorly spelled their name is, and we all got a kick out of it. And it was kind of like your situation where everyone's coming in and out to play the game. And
hmm
at one point, there's like another team there who came to this hotel, and they like there's a TV out in the lobby that we were playing on, and they're looking, and they're like, oh, that looks like fun. So the next morning we go down and they've plugged in like their 360 and they just like camped out there. I'm like, oh,
hmm
okay. See how it is? Inspired you guys to take the lobby TV.
Nice.
But no, I remember spelling JJ Hoffman's name wrong. It was horrible. I still can't spell it to this day. But no, yeah, couch co-op, it's goofy, I love it. It was the way that I played for such a long time because
hmm
not having online, like split screen was like really the only way I could play with my friend Nathan in Ashsphere because we'd practice forensics and we'd play Call of Duty split screen while we like did our rehearsals, and you just started memorizing your script that way because
Yeah.
you were focused on the game, but the rehearsal came second nature to you, which is
hmm
awesome, you know. And it was that first week, where you're reading the script and you're like, am I in a safe spot I can hide and read the script? And you're like reading it, and then you see a guy come like, oh, and then you like read it back, but by week 2 you're like not even looking at the script no more. You're just looking down the screen and just reciting your whole entire thing. It was awesome. For those of you who have to memorize scripts, highly advise it. But you have to, I don't know, not everyone can do it. I don't think I could do it anymore. It was before I took it too serious. But as far as like a couch co-op mentality, how has it changed for you now as an adult? because as a kid, like couch co-op was kind of like or split screen, I should say, split screen or couch co-op. It was more of a you came over for the game. Now as an adult, it's more like that's what you do while socializing. Like it's become a different tool of socialization for me, which is I never kind of thought that video games would come to that point where it was just more of a tool for me to like occupy a guest, you know?
Hmm.
Like Ultimate Chicken Horse is couch co-op. And I love that game because
Still gotta play that.
yeah, it's so basic
Mhm.
where anybody can play it. And the best part about it is that you can have someone who's really good at the game trying to explain it to someone who's never played it before. And that experience right there is still a social like interaction.
Mhm.
And I love that, and that's why I like couch co-op games for like when I have big events at my folks' place. Like at New Year's, we had like I'd say upper of like 20 people, all trying to play Ultimate Chicken Horse and Smash and all this stuff, and everyone's just interacting with each other.
Mhm.
And there's like you got drinks and stuff like that, but majority of the time the socialization happened around the game. The game wasn't the focus anymore.
Yeah.
How about for you?
Well, it's kind of two parts. For me as a kid, so to kind of let everybody know, not without going into like an hour long detail, but I was a kid whose mom was very sick all the time in the hospital, and my close childhood friends, Matt and Bo, would always be over by my house. And for me, I didn't really think about this until more recently as I got older. For me, it was more about keeping my friends by my side,
Mm-hmm.
kind of keeping my friends around and putting on a show entertaining. We would watch movies, play games, and just kind of like listen to music, all sorts of like things that you do when you're a kid. Um, for me, gaming was like a coping mechanism to deal with the hardships of not having my dad in my life and then my mom being in the hospital all the time. And she was for a period of 7 years until she passed away in the hospital like every day. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
weekly. It was crazy. So I was always alone, and I used that as a tool to keep myself busy when I was by myself. And then my friends coming over, it was just a bonus to have that around. It
Mm-hmm.
was easy to just put on a show and entertain, and that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
For me growing up, I kind of took like the social outcast like path as an adult. Like I really didn't interact with people. I kind of lost touch with friends, and I kind of just grew up and I focused on a family life and
Mm-hmm.
being with the family, and that kind of helped or hindered, I guess you could say, my social like anxiety and everything. And I just kind of got in a weird place where I just became alone, and
Mm-hmm.
video games were my coping mechanism. And as I got older, I realized what I had missed out on, and I recently got in touch with past friends and tried to like make amends and say, hey, this is what happened. I'd like to be back in the fold, kind of deal. And I kind of realized now as I got older, I mean, being 36, kind of in that stage where, you know, work and life takes precedence over games, but I found a way to have that blend in. And for me, talking about couch co-op, what it means to me now is a social gathering of someone to come over, or for my wife and I to spend time together doing what we both love to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I wasn't to drag her away, she'd be playing Animal Crossing all day. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's like it kind of came full circle, and it's kind of the same thing I used it as before, except now I'm starting to repair the psyche of not having friends around, and kind of a loner still as it is. It's just kind of how it goes. But I enjoy making new friends. Like when I've joined up with you on Discord and we started this project, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's become eye opening, and it's kind of made me like regret some past choices and like wow. So sorry to get a
But
little serious there, but
no.
I just figured I'd share with our audience heart to heart. It's
Yeah.
been a tough road, man, and games have kind of paved the way, and it's helped me get back into having friends and
Mm-hmm.
having fun, because that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, gaming is self-serving and it's whatever you use it for. But when you can bring friends together and you can have that experience, and I can't play couch co-op with you obviously, but we can do it online and see each other through Discord, which is nice.
Hmm.
And that kind of helps me kind of open up and branch out. And now I'm not camera shy. I'm not like I don't have a phobia of large groups. I'll just do whatever, So
Yeah.
this has really opened up my eyes to what I've missed. And
Hmm.
for me, couch co-op is definitely something that I need in my life now. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think, if you have a discussion where you think it's dead or it's lost, I think it just depends on the generation. Kids
Yeah.
today, I don't know if they play couch cooperatively. I know my wife's cousins, who are like, I think they're in the age range of like 8 to 10. They're two brothers, and one of them kind of plays, and then the other one's got to take the controller away, and that one's got to start playing. So I kind
Yeah.
of see kids are still into the playing cooperatively together,
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I think for you especially and me, like we used to live in the same state. Now you moved out of Wisconsin. And that's one of the hard things is that I also Reeves, another buddy of the podcast, hard to kill on Twitch, by the way, if you're looking for him. He's another friend who moved out to Texas. I mean, we've lost 2 friends of Texas relatively quick time. And I'm not saying Texas is a bad place if you're from Texas. I'm just saying, like, he took 2 of my friends. I'd like them back. 3 of my friends, actually. 3 of my friends. I'd like them back. But anyways, so with having someone cross state, or cross states, it's very hard to have that, cooperative couch co-op feel. But you're right, with Discord, you can video call and you can be in chat, and that I think does more than just a voice and the game, because you can see someone's reaction, you can see how someone's doing, and it does make a big difference. That's why I really got into Twitch and to YouTube. Was I had a couple of buddies who had joined the military, and the thing is that they would play Xboxes every single day, and when they came back from basic, they didn't really know like what was going on, like what games we were playing. So by having like a YouTube channel where like showed highlights and within the friend group, they could still stay engaged with that. And same thing with Twitch. It allows people like my cousin who's in the Navy to tune in every now and then and see what's going on and interact with us live. And that's really why I did it. Not to ever get popular, but just more or less to offer that friend a way into the friend group, because it sucks. I completely understand where you're coming from, where like here are all your friends in Wisconsin who you would play couch co-op with, and then they're now online only. Like there's something about virtual versus being there physically with somebody. There is a difference, It's not much, but there is a difference, because with technology and the way that it's getting, I think that distance is getting much smaller. But there is something to be said about I can push you off the couch, like if you're too far ahead in Mario Kart, there's something about that, The other thing that I'll say about couch co-op is that it's not dying, but you're seeing a lot of developers getting rid of it. Yeah, and it really upsets me that you don't even have that option anymore, because there are plenty of times where I'm like, oh, we could play Call of Duty at my place. Well, you got to bring your Xbox over and bring a controller, and I've got extra monitors. But if I didn't have extra monitors, you'd have to bring your own over. What happened to like 4-player split screen, where you just went to grandma's house, plugged in your Xbox, and you were good to go, and you had just to bring 4 controllers. That was really, I think, one of the things that really upset me about the Xbox One was they removed 4-player split screen from Call of Duty, because my cousin Max, Michael, and I, and then Nathaniel was a little too young. He was like the really little cousin where it's like he didn't quite know how to play, and so you're like, oh, do you really want to play with us? Because he'd just be in the corner. But that for years, Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, that was their time to play video games, because they didn't really have an Xbox 360 till really late in the Xbox 360 era. But since I had it, I was the cool cousin that brought it, and we'd all play split screen. But for me, it was like, oh, I can't wait to own my cousins, you know, I can't wait to just like spank them around, you know. But for Michael and Max, it's like, oh, I can't wait to play Call of Duty, like, you know, like.
Yeah.
And it was, I would never trade those moments in for anything, you know, because Christmas is like I said, every holiday at my grandma's house, that split screen experience. We'd go into my Uncle Kenny's room, plug it into his little 22-inch TV, which I now have.
Nice, nice.
He I have his old little TV and it's in my kitchen, and it's like kind of, it's nice to have it, you know, like it's because that was the TV that I played on for years. Um, but that being there and watching them grow up as gamers, you know, get better over the years, and that eventually we moved to like Tomb Raider and cooperative games like Eye of the Osiris or whatever it is, where like you could play as a cooperative team, and we were becoming like one fluid machine, and there's something about, you know, being there, and there's just a synergy in the room that you feel when you guys like complete a really hard boss and you're all like, yeah, like, you know, like, and that's contagious, and that excitement is contagious in that room. Or if someone's shooting at somebody and they're like, oh, that excitement, and they're trying to like dodge and get out of the way, that excitement and that energy just like amplifies in that small space. Whereas online, like, it's there, but the atmosphere around you there's nothing there. It's your feeling internally. There's no exterior thing to amplify that energy. I don't know. It's hard to explain. For those of you who ever played couch co-op or like split screen Call of Duty, and then I've gone to online, like you know what I'm talking about. That that atmosphere around the TV, you know. I believe it's a Miller Lite commercial that they say it's not about the size of the TV, it's the people around it.
Right.
Not an advertisement for them, you know, but not a sponsor, obviously. No. But that is one of my favorite lines. And to this day, I say it all the time. Like, it's so true. It's not about the size of the TV. It's about who you're playing the game with, you know? It's about who's around it, honestly. And I think with online, you can play with anybody you want in the world at any time, you know? And it's gotten to the point where the couch is no longer just in your room. The couch can be anywhere, you know? But sometimes you want someone physically there, you know? And they're removing that option to have someone physically there, you know? Do you think with COVID, like, it has shown developers that there needs to be more cooperative options or more online options, personally?
I think people would take it that we need more online experiences. This is kind of crazy for me because like the whole world changing with COVID where everyone's online. I mean, when I tried to get set up for doing this podcast, couldn't find a web camera to save my soul. And it's like everything's online now. And it's like, you know, everyone's buying up all the web cameras for their kids for going back to school, the online sessions. And here in Texas, I know some schools are reopening, just saying, we don't care. We're just going to reopen and do it.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, it was very difficult. So I can kind of see what happened. Now, me personally with COVID, I've had some very major setbacks in my life, both career-wise, losing my job, and us having a death in the family. So it's been this is just to kind of paint a perspective of how it's been for me. COVID has been a disastrous year. This 2020 has been just absolutely disastrous for my family. I mean, and there's no questions. But the shining light has been cooperative gaming with friends, and it's kind of twofold because you have been like a pinnacle, like a beacon of hope for me with this digital starting, but also with friendship, that life will get better. There's more positive things out there. And so even with all the stress and the struggles through COVID and everything that happened to us, we made it. We survived. And I think COVID has taught us that relationships are now more important than ever because there's families that have lost way more than you have, and as many things as you think you're going through and suffering, there's people out there who are losing their entire family, you know. So it's like not to be depressive, but it puts things in perspective when you look at life. And people don't always get serious and talk about that, but
Hmm.
it's the truth. I mean, everyone's going through it together. We're all in this together.
Hmm.
And I think COVID has shown us that from a gaming perspective, that they need to blow the doors off of everything and make it so that people can play online more interactively.
Hmm.
Hey, puss puss, my cat's here.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
uh, to make the world more interactive, both online and in person. And I
Hmm.
think they need to bring cooperative back. I
Yeah.
mean, games like Borderlands still have split screen multiplayer, and a lot of the sports titles, your buddy can grab a controller and you can take turns playing on screen and things like that. So there are some niche outlets out there that still provide that experience.
Hmm.
Um, when you were touching on Man of Medan, my wife and I picked that up and played that, and I too picked the same character that dies off.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right away.
And
Yeah.
my wife and I really enjoyed it. We lost touch with it when we got rid of our Xbox, so we picked it up again on PlayStation, and I'm looking forward to going through it and actually like completing the experience.
You should do
Um,
a stream of that. I'd watch
yeah,
that.
yeah, for
I
sure,
love
for
that
sure,
game.
for sure.
The
Um,
Go ahead.
but yeah, sorry. So yeah, cooperative and with COVID has really shown, I think, to just hammer it home. Hey, got out there listening, people, don't settle for these games where it's one player, there's no options to play together. Place branch out. It's cool. It's cool to play by yourself. It's cool to play
Hmm.
by yourself. But if you haven't experienced cooperative, give it a shot. Try it. You never know what you're gonna take from it.
Hmm.
I can almost guarantee you that you're gonna have some form of enjoyment out of it. There's just no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. I think COVID showed us that there is a very big importance in online
mhm,
cooperative. There's a need for online support, among other things. And it's not just, I think it's a shame that COVID had to show society, especially America, um, that our internet infrastructure, our online infrastructure is horrible. It's horrible.
it
You look
is.
at any Asian country, China, Singapore, Japan, their tech industry is phenomenal. India is like one of the fastest growing tech industries in the world. They grow way faster, like exponentially. Now, also, it's because their tech was so small compared to ours. Like, yes, I understand the realism behind it. But if you look at it, their internet infrastructure, their cellular infrastructure, all of this technology for connection and networking is growing rapidly for these
Mhm.
countries. Whereas America, we're still stuck trying to convince people that 5G is not going to kill them, you know? Or you're stuck with 15 megs of internet, you know? And I've got friends who are lucky to get 5 megabytes down of internet with a 2 upload. One of our good friends, Aaron. He lives out in Minnesota. He has
Sorry,
horrible
Aaron.
internet. Yeah, poor Aaron. We appreciate you, Aaron. But with that being said, if you look at these other countries, there's not that issue of internet inconsistencies. You know, they still
Mhm.
have really good infrastructure for networking and for communications. And I think COVID has shown us that yes, we've got good internet, we've got good ISPs and good providers, but it's not good enough for everybody. Like it's not good enough for everybody to be connected. And that's something where I think the gaming industry uh, would benefit greatly from. If you could have everybody have good internet, you can then make games online that you can that can be more demanding on the
Mhm.
download and the upload because everyone has X amount of internet.
Mhm.
Call of Duty, for instance, is a game that has really good servers or really bad, depending on who you are, um, because they're capped at a certain amount of what is called ticks. And so the lower amount of ticks is the lower amount of internet required to play to the server. And that's why Call of Duty is so popular, is because the amount of ticks that are required to get into the game is lower than something like Battlefield, you know,
Yeah.
the internet
Mhm.
requirement for it. So I think COVID's shown us that online is needed, but a more
Mhm.
important stress on the technology needs to meet the demand.
Yeah.
And couch co-op, especially with families being closer, I think families look at it as, We need an option to game together that doesn't involve me buying 4 Nintendo Switches, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really like about Nintendo is that they keep the couch co-op alive. Or I shouldn't have used Nintendo Switches as 4 Nintendo Switches. It's been like 4 PlayStations in order to play Fortnite together,
Yeah.
something like that. Um, but Nintendo Switch keeps the couch co-op and the family co-op alive with
Hmm.
one system. You get multiple Joy-Cons and all that other stuff. And it shows that like there is still a demand for it, a very strong demand for local co-op or local multiplayer. And I think it's not dead, but I think it's always going to be relevant to have both options.
Hmm.
And the downside is that you can't really kill off one because you need to have options. You need to have both options, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's just not a good experience. You know,
Yeah.
I'd rather not have to buy multiple consoles in order to play a game with Kylie. So that's my
I
personal
think
opinion.
Well, I think you're right on track. I think you're hit it home perfect. I think the main reason why they do that though, they kind of if you look at big titles that have done that, it's like if you look at Call of Duty, they scale it down even more even years ago when they did have the 4 player then they went to 2 player. They scale it way back because they're trying to put so much effort into everything else. And
Yep.
I think that's one thing with that franchise that you look at. It's like they try to put too many eggs in one basket of like big Hollywood open action stuff, and then they forget that maybe people just want to play together sitting down,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure I'm very faithful in the industry that there's some ideas out there going forward for the future that there will be more interactivity for cooperative besides just doing dances with your character and having horrible audio quality of like 2 bit rate
Mm-hmm.
communications. That's one thing I think PlayStation's trying to tackle at the same time. I know they're going through some controversy right now with they record you when you talk, and they don't. They've disclaimed that. But the ability to record people is with the user coming forward, and then you can report that to them for like you know malicious behavior, which I can get behind and I can agree with. Um, I just hope that they focus on like the fun of it and they stop taking because when you think of a big game, what I was saying before, they take from the things that they think are less important. They take from the multiplayer, the couch cooperative, they take away the split screen. That's the first thing to go in major titles because they think it's not as important. And I
Mm-hmm.
almost just want to slap them and say BS. It is important
Yep.
because it's a fiber of a gaming community to bring people together to play. And I think gaming industries and gaming developers like whoever made Among Us, they're genius, bringing all these people together and having all these people from different walks of life playing together, and just PC gaming in general. I think that's where they win. Is you can look at your friend live online and hear them, see them, play a game at the same time, and have that almost as close as you can get to the real thing as having that person right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really it's like a shout out like, hey, step up your game, stop getting rid of what you think is stupid for a few extra texture pixels or whatever, a few
Mm-hmm.
extra megabits they need for to make this one texture on the wall 12 miles down the road perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's they cut corners from us, and it upsets me. It really
Yeah.
does, because at the end of the day, I used to be that lone gamer. Oh, I only want to play by myself. I don't like multiplayer. Oh, I don't like people. People are stupid. And yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
do mute everybody online because all you hear is hate speech and
Oh yeah.
vulgar
Okay.
terminology.
I do that too.
But I really love playing with people, and
Mm-hmm.
it's come full circle now. So I'm really on that force. Like, hey, let's do this. Let's keep it as couch co-op friendly as possible, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds with that. And at the end of the day, my coping mechanism for that, if they take it out and they don't have it, they don't allow you, I'll just pass the controller to my wife.
Yeah.
Screw it. At the end of the day, if you're not going to put it in, I'm still going to find a way to play cooperatively. And
Yeah.
that's like with everybody's golf that I was talking about earlier. Pass the controller, we take turns, and we'll create a goofy character and some outlandish looking character avatar, and just have fun. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So if it's gonna go away, and it's gonna die, we'll still find a way. You know,
Yeah.
people will still find a way.
Yeah, I think people will find a way to make it social.
Yeah.
The on that note, though, unless you have anything else to say, I think it's time for the save point.
Save point. Let's do it.
All right, Matt. On this week's save point, we actually got a comment from Pops Clark on the website. He actually went to disdigital.net, scrolled down to the bottom of the homepage, and left a comment in the comment section.
Nice.
For people who don't have social media or want to comment on our YouTube videos or on our Podbean podcasts, you can just go down to disdigital.net, disc with a K, and you can leave a comment on the homepage or on the episode as well. We'll see both there. Also, if you haven't already, we are on iTunes, and if you leave us a review and a rating, that does help us out quite a bit. We got some 5-star ratings. Thank you so much for those people. Afro Xavier, we really appreciate that, but that does help out the podcast get promoted quite a bit. Anyways, Pop Clarks wants to know, I'd like to know why modern games have abandoned the long-term strategy game. Is it just that the graphics and sound capability are so great now that they seem wasted on a long-term strategy game that relies on, well, strategy? For me, I personally think that the turn-based strategy is still alive. You see it with like Final Fantasies, you see it with other games that are very similar, and they're trying to go to a different style. I think when you talk about a long-term strategy game, if you're talking about like a turn-based RPG, or you're talking about RPGs, that's normally where you see it, those aren't dying. What you are seeing dying is real-time strategy games like Civilization. Civilization's kind of not turn-based, but it's like kind of real-time. They're trying to do some weird things. But like Frostpunk and Civilization and SimCity are all games that are still really strong franchises that are strategy games and are still thriving. But the real-time strategy games like Tom Clancy's End War and StarCraft 2, dead. Those are dead. StarCraft 2 is out the window. Like, don't know why. I really like StarCraft 2, but it's really hard to have that as a casual game because the skill requirement is so high and the knowledge is so high in order to play it casually that you almost have to be a professional, quote unquote. And it's a boring professional sport to watch, quote unquote. You know, it just has no following, and that's the downside to it. And I mean, like, StarCraft 2 is not the most boring esport to watch, but it's not profitable. So there's no reason to have a pro league for it. Same thing with Civilization. You can't have a pro league for Civilization, which is why it's like a niche franchise, you know? And that's my personal take on it. I think it's not that they're dying, it's just that you're not seeing as many new titles. You're seeing traditional titles that are just franchised more or less, and they're like releasing like updates, and it's depends on the kind of strategy game you're looking for, you know. What about you? What's your feel on strategy games?
Well, thanks, Pops Clark, for the comment. Really appreciate the feedback. For me, I think it's they've turned away from it because back when they created these games, you had this platform to do that, and it was very hidden and secretive and kind of like not really well known out there. And I mean, if you look at like us playing Uncharted Waters, it came out in the early '90s on was it the Nintendo?
Super Nintendo,
yeah, Super Nintendo, yeah. And I never until you mentioned it, I never would have known the game existed.
Yeah.
I don't know if truly, I can't really speak if it was marketed well or not, but I think that's kind of my point, is that the gaming industry, ever since going back to its origins, they have always been marketing and marketing and marketing, and they've noticed that the market is children and young adults, and that therefore, not to make, not to say people are dumb, because it's people are smart, but what it boils down to is, how are you going to hold and capture that audience's attention?
Yeah.
And more in society, as years have gone on with gaming, children's attention spans have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. And now, to be honest, not to be rude, but just be completely honest with people, you see today kids walking around and everyone's on their phone, And what I see is like 5 or 6 year old children walking around the supermarket, and instead of shopping with their parent and learning those experiences, they're sitting there with their phone like this, and they're just watching their phone while their parents are shopping, and they're just like completely clueless to the environment. And that I should see that every day nowadays. And it's not like I'm trying to become some crusty old fart. It's just that
Mhm.
children's attention spans have drastically decreased over time. And now I think the long-term strategy game just doesn't hold interest for people. And up until more recently, as you get older, you start to like learn and appreciate the intricacies of that type of thing, and you want more of
Mhm.
that. And that's where the pull is for me. But I think why you don't see it nowadays, and it seems like it's died off almost, and they've abandoned it, is because there's just no market for that. With children's attention spans short, you got to keep games short.
Mhm.
Or if you're going to make games longer, you've got to like kind of hold their hands,
Mhm.
so to speak, to get them to follow the path to
Yep.
enjoy the game, what it's meant for. And for like when we boot up Uncharted Waters, I, as an adult, am super intelligent and understanding that what the game is trying to do is to make you explore and branch and open and find your own experience. It's within yourself to do that. And I don't think with children with their imagination that they're able to do that. And I think that's where it comes down to marketing.
Yeah.
Long-term strategy games are never going to sell unless you put busty characters on there, or you put some incentive to have really cool armor, and you make it like a hybrid, like role playing action adventure long term strategy. If you roll it into a package that it really wouldn't look right, that you might get their attention on. But yeah, I think it just boils down to there's just no market for it,
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I played games long term, not just strategy games, but I mean I would play the same games until I would wear out the cartridge,
Yeah.
So I really tried to maximize that. But kids nowadays are built different, they learn different, they're growing up in a different world where everything's at their fingertips, and you can't really compete with that market. And I don't think there's ever going to be another long-term strategy game, honestly, that's going to come out and like recapture the glory and become this like ever popular huge thing, where it's going to take on the big the action games or the sports games. But I think it's just gonna belong in that little niche where we go back, like retro games, we go
Mhm.
back and take a look at it and give it a center stage, like what we try to do here at Just a Digital. We try to give games a center stage and share new experiences with people. So I think it maybe not be dead, but it's definitely not something that you can market to a wide audience,
Mhm.
and a developer is going to actually make money back on that game,
Mhm.
unless it's got like 2-bit potato graphics,
Yeah.
maybe. But
I think it's a lot like couch co-op, where it's not necessarily dead. It's
mhm,
just evolved. It's changed.
yeah,
Turn-based strategy games are still popular. So if your idea of a strategy game or your definition of a strategy game is anything that requires you not to have Twitch-like reactions, there's a lot of options out there for you. Because turn-based strategy is technically still a strategy game. A turn-based RPG is a turn-based strategy RPG. So the definition of a long-term strategy game, it's very subjective. And I think what you're seeing is like a game like Uncharted Waters it's a lot of things. It's a turn-based battle, turn-based strategy game with RPG elements and an in-game economy system. The first person shooter equivalent to that, there's no turn-based. CS:GO. CS:GO, you have progression per rounds, and you have an in-game economy system. You know, so there are strategic elements in every single game. Because if you have enough money for your team, you can buy certain things during certain rounds, or you save money during certain rounds so you can afford stuff the next round. Um, so there are strategy elements in other genres, but the long-term strategy that you might be referring to is something like Uncharted Waters, where it's an RPG. And with a role-playing game, there's so many options for it that it's not dead. It's just evolved. It's just changed. The Witcher 3 is, you could consider it not maybe a strategy game, but it is a long-term RPG. you know,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of evolved because there's a strategy. You could either play it like Blade and Sword, was it Story and Blade or Blade and Story or whatever it is, and you can just go around and chop, 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 and never put on a single oil in the game and play the game. Or you can crank it up the difficulty, put oils on, put on whatever you want, put on your headdress that gives you 5 billion plus stats against Wraith. Wait till 12 o'clock to fight a noon Wraith. Like you can do all that stuff, you know.
Hmm.
That's a strategy. So I think that it's just evolved. I think you see the term long-term strategy game, you know, it's changed. I think if you're looking for something that's very a long-term strategy game, you got to look at something that is like a Mutant Year Zero turn-based strategy game. It's got a story. You know, you collect stuff throughout the world in order to equip your 3 party members better. You level up their progression. They get different stats, and then you do turn-based strategy combat. You know, something like Shadowrun, for instance, is another very similar thing to Mutant Year Zero. Shadowrun on the SNES, and then inspired the reboot of Shadowrun on mobile devices and on PC. Very similar mechanics, very similar choose your own adventure story. It's a long-term strategy game, just evolved. I think the term strategy game is either it falls into 2 categories. It falls into role-playing or RPGs, or into simulation builders like your SimCities, your Sims, because those simulation types, those are still popular. You still got things like that. Real-time strategy games that involve high mechanical skill, high mental skill, those are going away. And the reason is because the mental skill or the skill floor required to play those games is so high, no one wants to learn that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with Valorant. Valorant did this perfectly. CSGO's skill floor to get good at CSGO is much higher than Valorant. So they said, okay, we'll just lower it a little bit. And people are like, oh, Valorant's the best game that's ever existed. It's just an easier CSGO with a little bit more abilities. Like, that's my mentality with it. Valorant's a fun game, but they did it right. They lowered the skill floor for Valorant, and the skill ceiling is lower inherently because of it, you know? Because it's an easier game mechanically to play. And I think if you can make a game that's more accessible for a wider range of people, that's how it survives. And I think same thing with like Last of Us Part 2 when we were talking about the control schemes that they give you for their accessibility menu, like slow motion, you know, the control where like literally it turns bad guys bright red, like it, so you can't miss them. There's giving people that ability allows them to play the game, and giving that ability to someone who needs it, that allows someone who couldn't have played it before to be able to play that game. And I think that's why long-term strategy games, they don't seem to be around, but they still are. They've just changed their genre, I think, personally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you have a very valid point on the marketing aspect of it, is that you can't, last time I think I've ever seen anything marketed for Sims, I can't tell you the last time I've seen something marketed for SimCity. Or that Tropicana 5 or whatever it is.
Oh, Tropico?
Yeah, see, it's so bad. I don't remember.
Tropicana 5?
Yeah, Tropicana 5.
Sounds pretty good to drink, but not
Yeah.
to play.
That's patent pending. But I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, like, just like couch co-op, I think it's one of those things where it's evolved. And it's not going away. It's just that it's going to look different. You know, it's going to have changes in it that we're not used to, but are technically for the better in the long term. Like, I don't necessarily need every single game to offer couch co-op as an option, you know, because if it's something like, do you remember Rage?
Oh, yeah.
Rage, really good game. Rage 2, don't even bother.
No, I did, unfortunately. It was a huge mistake.
Oh, gosh. I looked at it and I thought it was like, I don't know. I just thought it looked like a knockoff, like of Borderlands. No.
Yeah.
Too bad. id Software was really one of my top companies that I loved. If you look at Rage 1, it was a great first-person story. Multiplayer was with cars. Awesome. Their online multiplayer offered no gunplay, which I thought was awesome. Like, no multiplayer, like team deathmatch gunplay. It was all with cars. Cooperatively, split screen, you could do cooperative missions with guns. I loved it. I loved it. It's one of my favorite parts of the games is that you could play those cooperative missions together. You know,
Nice.
same thing with Ghost Recon. Ghost Recon offered split screen multiplayer options. Modern Warfare 2, Spec Ops, split screen multiplayer options. I believe you could also play multiplayer with those. I'm not quite sure. Spec Ops. I don't think so. I don't think you could play Spec Ops other than split screen.
Mhm.
So there's things like that where they have specific modes for split screen that are kind of like, you know, specific for that couch co-op experience. I'd rather have that than have, oh, here's the multiplayer experience. Here's the multiplayer experience, but with split screen and done really poorly. Like, you know, if you're going to give me that, like, give me all the features. Or if you're going to give me like a specific mode versus the entire thing, make sure that mode's good.
Mhm.
All I care about is that the couch co-op experience is good. I don't want it to be an afterthought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that is the afterthought, is that everyone's focus is mainly online. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great point because I never thought to kind of peel back layers and kind of maybe think that long-term strategy games have been kind of evolved and adapted and changed. And you talking Witcher, I could talk that all day. I won't touch on it to save us some time here today. But yeah, you peel back those layers, and that's exactly what it is. When you play it on Death March difficulty, it's a long-term strategy game where long term means that's how many hours you're going to suffer playing the game because that's how long
Yep.
it's going to take to see everything. And let me tell you, somebody who's put 1,000+ hours into it haven't even scratched the surface.
Yep. Yeah, like you could look at Assassin's Creed Brotherhood actually too. It's an action RPG, but you strategically like level up certain assassins to specialize in certain things. Like at one point, there's like a axe assassin. I'm like, get out of here, get out of here! I don't play with axe assassins. Stabby sword assassins all day. Yeah. People are gonna find out that Brett's very biased against axes. But no, I mean, like, I was like, okay, because like the guy's speed is so much worse than like a guy with a sword, and if I really want to call in an assassin, I'm running away from like 7 or 8 guys. I don't want freaking Pyramid Head just dragging his axe to come over and save me. No, I need someone in there now. I need Wedge. I am in the trenches of the Death Star, and I need Wedge to come bail me out. You know, I need someone in there fast and out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so. But no, exactly. Like you're right. Like Death March is it's such a hard thing, and you have to know so much. You know, and that mental knowledge makes it a strategy game. You know, and I think a game that did that very well, that like people really don't ever think about, is crap. I'm trying to think of what it's called. Oh, Diablo 3.
Oh yeah.
It is a RPG, but you've got builds. It's like World of Warcraft. You got builds where you can like do certain things for your party members, and that aspect, almost an MMO aspect, that might be where long-term strategy games have actually kind of evolved to as MMOs. You know, honestly. But
Yeah,
those are all strategy games at the end of the day. You know, it's just like couch co-op where it's evolving. You know, and I think that if couch co-op's here to stay, but we're gonna see changes to it. You know, that not necessarily everyone's gonna like. You know, and I think Nintendo's doing a really good job of it, keeping it to the core, like couch co-op. Like you just gotta split your Joy-Cons and 2 people can play. You know. There was the Starlinks is a game I just bought, the greatest Star Fox game ever to exist. Not really. It's not actually a Star Fox game, but you can play Star Fox in it. There's a co-op option. You have to play it docked, and you can split it, and you can both play as different ships. But it's a game that's supposed to be a single player experience and focuses on a single player experience. So they give you a couch co-op option, but they limit you. They say you have to play docked, and you can only play ships in your inventory, which is fine. You're just fine. At the end of the day, it's like, you know, you gave us the option at least, you know, and I can't really fault them for that. Splatoon, you know, stuff like that where you can play like, you know, team deathmatch, stuff like that. It's kind of cool, you know. Mario Kart, obviously. So there's a lot of options for Nintendo games to be split screen, and they do it really well. It's just a shame sometimes when you get something like Bloodstained, where it says it's going to be 2-player co-op, released on PlayStation and PC. It says 2-player on the box, has no multiplayer support.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
that
just cooperative.
no, nothing. It says 1 to 2 players on the box, nothing,
weird.
no multiplayer at all.
Weird.
They're supposed to add it in a patch, and they never did.
Well, you saved me some money because I was going to get that soon.
It's a really good single player game, but you can't play it cooperatively.
Yeah.
Same thing with here's the reverse of it though. Super Blood Hockey is a split screen only multiplayer game. There's no online multiplayer. But
That's crazy.
I don't know. Closing out here, Matt, do you have any final thoughts here on couch co-op?
Yeah, I thought maybe I'd just end it with sharing a favorite experience.
Okay.
I don't know if you've got one. I've got just a quick favorite experience of mine.
Oh, go ahead, cheers.
So, of all the fun I had in my childhood playing with my buddies on the couch and everything, and all the games we played together, I gotta cast that aside a second. So I'm a serious Gran Turismo person. Like I drive, I do all the challenges. I'm so hardcore serious in it, and I'm sitting there playing, and I'm just like so laser focused on the game. I'm trying to hit every turn perfect and drive everything, take everything serious and fine tune my automobiles.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite experience would be just my wife opening up my eyes to fun in life and not being so serious.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite memory is her passing her the controller and she's driving and being a noob at the game and not really familiar with how the game works. She's just takes over the controls and she's driving and scooting off the road and sliding through the grass and smashing into the wall and just having a blast. And she's laughing the whole time, and her mom's there laughing, and we're all just like, all three of us are engaged in it, and we're just having a blast. And it kind of took me back, like, this is something special, something you take so serious, someone else is just casually having fun, and we're just all getting a kick out of it. And it's not to be mean or haha you suck. It was just like a lighthearted experience, and we're all laughing and chuckling, and like sides are hurting from laughing, and my wife's just continuously trying to drive and hitting some good spots, but just having a blast being goofy with it. And I think for me that was probably by far my favorite experience, was kind of pull me out of my seriousness of single player games and let somebody else take over and see what they do. And that's partly why I like to watch or play games a lot too, is because of that. So I just want to give that a shout out. It's just one of my favorite moments. It's just me being so hard ass serious about Gran Turismo, hitting everything perfect, and then my wife just basically performing a lawn service to the inroad there.
She's cutting the lawn, yeah.
Sorry, honey, I should probably slap me up later, but
well, it's the truth. She can't hate that much.
Right.
I think for me, my favorite couch co-op experience, I've got a lot of them, but there's one where this always is one of the first experiences I talk about when I tell people about like horror games. You remember PT, Playable Trailer?
Yeah.
Kojima made this like horror game, Silent Hills, like Playable Trailer. We're playing in my room, and we're playing on this big TV that's above my monitors and above my PlayStation. So like my computers are on and stuff like that, and my PlayStation's on. So the room's hot. Like, it's a closed bedroom, And I've got two friends over, in addition to my buddy Taylor, who's playing the game. And Adam and Blake, Adam's like sitting on my bed, like, and he's going to reach for his drink. And Blake's like, he's like, man, it's so hot in here, man. Do you have a vent that blows AC, man? It's so hot in here. I'm like, stop complaining, guys. Like, we can open the window in a second here. Well, Taylor activates a jump scare, and me and him knew what was going on, and we're like, oh, whatever. And you hear both Adam and Blake go, oh, and they're like freaking out. I turn around. Blake has got his pants on the ground because he was so hot that he just like had to take off his pants. He's going, oh, with his pants down. Adam's hiding in his shirt in my closet, like, and he's like screaming, like hiding behind my clothes.
That's too funny.
In my closet. And me and Taylor both turn around, and we're both dying. It was so bad, because it's like, like they are not into horror games like that. Me, similar thing happened with me and Adam. We were playing Slender Man, and my buddy Michael was playing the game, and my mom had brought down wings for us because Blake had gone up and said, "Can we have these?" And he was like super drunk. He's like, "Can we have these?" And she's like, "Sure." So she makes him, brings them down. All the guys are like wandering the backyard because they wanted to see the whole house for some reason. And Mike activates a jump scare. Adam jumps over the futon. And then my mom brings down the wings. He goes, "Oh, wings." Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's like, like those experiences of couch co-op, like those are what I love the most. It's just, they're goofy, that's all it is at the end of the day. It's just, seeing your friends crap themselves is like the best thing ever in the world. I mean, sounds awful, but it's the truth, Do you have any other closing thoughts here for the end of the podcast?
Just if anybody out there hasn't had the opportunity to play with somebody, hey, take that chance, invite them over, sit down and play, or have that experience. It's a blast, and I think people do it socially without video games. I think people just they find it in other forms of life. It's the same thing as us gamers. We do the same thing, except we sit down and play something that's more engaging, and it helps bring out conversation. It helps people kind of break the ice and open up, and it's a social tool for us that we can use to kind of come out of our shell, so to speak. And for some people, you might not know that well, it really brings you closer together. And there's some people that are dealing with a lot, like I did growing up, that you don't maybe understand. If you don't make that connection, you don't reach out, that's a lost opportunity. So I just urge us listeners out there, if you guys want to give it a shot, join us on stream, join us on Discord, hop in. It's kind of the same thing. You're being there, you're playing cooperatively, you're contributing, and it's an enjoyable experience both for you guys and for us. I've had a blast doing live streaming on Facebook. I recently played Watch Dogs Legion, so if you guys want to check that out, all the videos that we stream on Facebook are kept and recorded in the cloud, so you're able to go on our page and check it out, and just see what that experience is like. Obviously, we're just starting out, so we're trying to gain our ground, gain our footing here with you guys. We do appreciate you guys tremendously. You guys have been very instrumental in us wanting to do more and pushing us to go further and try new things, and we're always looking to do that. So thank you guys for your support. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And, that's all I got, man.
Yeah, I agree with Matt there. I think as far as you guys as viewers, you guys have been fantastic in helping us get traction here and motivating us and being interactive on the podcast and with your comments. It does help a lot drive those save points, and we like to thank everybody, especially Pops Clark this week for submitting a topic for us to talk about at the save point, because it just happened to work out that topic fit perfectly into what we were talking about this week. I didn't notice it till we were doing it, and I was like, oh gosh, it ties in perfectly. So there's happy accidents like that, where someone submits a topic and we can talk about it. And also, like I said, it's great to hear from you guys, so please feel free to reach out to us on our website, disc2digital.net, disc with a K, or you can tweet to us on our social media at disc2digital with the hashtag disc2digital. You can also reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, or you can join our Discord group where we have conversations every day. I post amazing sales at Best Buy. I've been posting in there because the Black Friday sales are there, and it's hard to pass up some of the sales that I see, and I'm like, here, guys, here's some great things. It's just a place to chat and chill and talk to your friends, because even though we talked about couch co-op today, honestly, sometimes you don't have the ability to be there, So sometimes digital is not that bad, physical and digital, it's the whole part of the show. It's the whole thing. It's like, you got to have a nice balance between the two of them. But we'd like to also thank all of our supporters out there as well. Shout out to Afro, who is delivering the great beats that we have for our intro and outro as well. And also, from everyone here at Disc2Digital, I'm Brett Clark, and this is Matt Keaton.
Yo.
And we would like to thank you for watching this episode, and we will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.